All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back. Today we're talking about the horrifying reality of the job market here in America right now. That's right, the job market, right? Everybody wants to talk about that. We've not talked about that enough, but we're going into the holiday season, and this is when people usually pick up a bunch of part-time jobs. That way they can pay for a bunch of gifts for a bunch of ungrateful children that are still going to resent them anyway. But going into this holiday season, there's just no jobs. There's no jobs for anyone. There's no jobs for anyone who's just looking for normal employment. If you're actually looking for a part-time gig, in fact, part-time gigs are pretty much the only things that are out there right now because you can be underpaid. They don't have to give you a lot of hours, and they can treat you however they want to treat you because they know that you're going to quit in just a few weeks. But as far as the job market's concerned right now, unemployment, pretty low. That's the official numbers. That's what we hear, right? 4.4%, something like that. Sounds pretty all right. It doesn't sound bad. 95.6% of America is employed, right? The eagles soar. The flags, they wave. America's on the up and up. It's doing great. The economy's booming. People are flush with money. If you're poor, it's your own fault. It's all ridiculous. Listen,
I'm going to tell you one thing. The amount of gaslighting, the amount of gaslighting you will receive for even talking about the economy or any jobs is astonishing. When it comes to employment, it's a joke, man. There are no more jobs. You can't even get a simple entry-level job because all of it went to foreigners. A lot of jobs that used to be in the US are here in the Philippines. So they don't pay Americans anymore. They pay Filipinos. That's where we're at. And fast food, yeah, you can forget about it. Everyone is trying to be a fast food worker, from a teenager all the way to like an 80-year-old man, and you're not getting a job.
the employment numbers are a scam. Everyone knows that it's a scam. 4.4% is just an illusion, right? It's the number that they trot out on mainstream media to make everyone think that the economy is not collapsing. But the thing is, it is collapsing. If we take away the profit that was made by the AI companies this past year, the stock market only went up 0.1%. Think about that. It's bad out there. But again, let's get...
Bro, we're making record profits, man. We're making record profits. What do you mean? We're doing good.
back to the job market. Let's talk about the illusion, because that's exactly what it is. It's an illusion, like free breakfast at a hotel. Unemployment numbers are great as long as you don't actually count the number of people who are unemployed in this country, because that's the magic trick to this whole thing. Poof, they disappear just like that. People who are disgruntled because they put in 1,000 applications and have never gotten a call back, and they just kind of turned away. They've been out of the job market for so long because they can't find a job. They're not going to count them anymore. If you've been on the job hunt for 6 or 7 months, the only thing that you actually have available to you in this country right now is entry-level positions, but they're still asking for 12 years of work experience,
You're
a master's
screwed.
degree, and $120,000 worth of student loan debt. That's just to get your foot in the door for an interview.
Buddy, I'm going to tell you one thing. For a gas station, for a cashier at a gas station, you need your master's degree, my guy. You need your master's. But I will say I have not been employed for probably 2 years, so I'm already screwed. I mean, at this point, I'm a freelancer, so I have some bit of employment. I was self-employed. I had a company when I was in the States, but there ain't no way I can, there's no way I can get back in the job market. I'm gonna have to start if I had to go back to America and work, I would have to start all the way over when I was in college. Actually, no, to be honest, I could probably go back to my same field because I have the connection. So yeah, I could easily get back into the oil field, blue collar work, and be fine. That's gonna be a long ass trip.
People can't even get a job at McDonald's right now. You know the economy is in a bad position when McDonald's is being super selective of the people that they're hiring. The criteria just to get a job at McDonald's is to have a degree. This sounds like the Philippines, right? I spent enough time in the Philippines to know that people who work at 7-Elevens usually have a degree in chemistry. That's insane. In countries like that, where there's not enough jobs for people, the criteria just to get a poverty wage job requires a college degree. It doesn't make any sense. So when I hear the numbers rolled out on mainstream,
I know a woman here. She has a degree and she works at Starbucks, and then she makes nothing for wage. And the way her hours is, it is unhuman. And then she's gonna quit soon. She just can't keep up with that job. I mean, the wage, the hours, the day you get one day off, and the hours, the day off, and then the time you come into work is like, for example, let's say you get off at 5 in the morning, and then you get that day off that you got off that morning, but then you have to be at work the next day early in the morning to start your shift. You basically scrunch the off day to like a few hours. So maybe you get to like eat, sleep for a few hours, and then you gotta go back to work the next morning. So basically you got off the same day that you worked. Ooh, man. And this is Starbucks too, by the way. There ain't no way. There ain't no way. I got a degree in science, but you won't catch me working no minimum wage job. Not several. When I was a freshman in college, I couldn't even get a job at McDonald's. I couldn't get a job at McDonald's, Burger King. There was this place called Hibbett Sports. I couldn't get a job nowhere. It was terrible. But now it's even worse.
Media, and I hear people, the politicians getting up there and say, unemployment's looking pretty good right now. The numbers are looking great. Like, where in imagination land did you get this, right? Are you getting these numbers from Narnia? Because it's not from this planet, not the real numbers. On the surface, they're like, look, it's 3 to 4% unemployment. But in reality, everyone has a side hustle because they have to. They're silently weeping, and the other half have 3 jobs just so they can afford a mattress that's made of recycled cardboard. We got people with master's degrees delivering tacos at 2 o'clock in the morning because it's the only thing that offers them a flexible schedule that they can actually have time to have a panic attack during the day. You've got 28-year-olds who've been working for 10 years reporting to an AI manager, and you got 60-year-olds who have no idea what's going on. They're told that they've got to reinvent themselves. Like, they've got to learn Python. They got to learn how to use the algorithm. You got to look at this entire thing and just be like, what's going on? The jobs don't make sense. The positions don't make sense. The wages don't make sense. Most of these positions, they don't even sound real. They just sound like titles that some fucking tech billionaire dreamed up after a 16-hour ayahuasca bender in Joshua Tree. Like, you got to get personal with these stories.
Those are called ghost jobs, by the way. You know how many ghost jobs there are on places like LinkedIn, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, all those other hiring platforms? Those are not even real jobs. They're ghost jobs, and they just collect your data, sell it to companies, and then you get your phone blown up by 20 unknown numbers. And then next, you get all these random emails, and it's just freaking ridiculous.
Because the numbers, they don't have a personal touch to them, right? Like, recently, I've talked to a college graduate. They had a degree in communications. Bright kid, full of hope. The world is their oyster, and that's before they kind of got tasered by reality. 25% of unemployed people right now are recent college graduates.
In today's world, every time you start to put in time to learn something new so you can get into a field to be stable, it's always too late. Even though the saying is, it's never too late. Well, the way AI and everything else is moving, by the time you learn all this stuff like Python, whatever, AI is going to, be filling that spot, and you would be basically studying for nothing. Almost like going to college for 4 years for a job, and then by the time you get done, there are no jobs. But you are in debt, so congratulations.
That should really tell you about the kind of hopeful landscape that our nation's youth is really treading on right now. 200 applications this person sent out and no replies. When they finally did land a job, it was just an unpaid internship. That's not even a job. That's getting paid in exposure. It's getting paid in experience. But experience doesn't pay the rent. Try to tell your landlord that you don't have the money because you have an internship, but hopefully it'll lead to a job in the next 6 to 12 months, and they're just going to call the police on you. Then I talked to somebody else. They're like, a mid-level professional, right? 20 years of experience, nice, amiable, solid work ethic, sensible shoes. Now, they got laid off because their company got restructured.
I'm going to tell you one thing. An internship is basically a humiliation ritual, all right? A humiliation ritual. You might as well call it slavery because you're working for free. How are you going to work for free? You can't pay rent. You can't do anything. You can't survive on internships. I mean, maybe if you were living with your parents, but everyone shames you for living with your parents. Everyone got shamed get kicked out when they got 18. Now, trying to do an internship when you're 25, 28 is like financially offing yourself.
But all that really means is the company decided to save a little bit of money by getting rid of the workers and putting in AI that's generally going to make decisions that are just a little bit worse than the live human that would have been taking that role before. But hey, at least the wage on the AI is a lot cheaper. So when he gets laid off, what does he do? He hits the job market, this dying, collapsing, festering abyss, this dystopian wasteland of a job market that it is right now. And what's the only thing that's available to this person with 20 years of work experience? Junior positions. That's it. Entry-level positions that require 5 years of experience, 2 unpaid internships, with United Nations, and a willingness to work on the weekends in exchange for pizza. Because if you ask most people, they don't even ask most people what's the best way to get a job, and no one knows. No one knows what the hell's going on. Right? What are you going to use? LinkedIn? ZipRecruiter? Most people feel like they're just sending their resumes into the void because that's exactly what they're doing.
LinkedIn is the most useless platform ever. It is almost like a kiss-ass humiliation ritual platform. You basically have to talk all this corporate dumb shit, and you have to pretend like you like being exploited and abused by employers. It is so dumb, and there's just no point. There is no point.
Like, you don't get a response. You don't even get a rejection. If you do get a rejection, for some reason, it's going to be 2 or 3 months later when HR for the company decides to push out, hey, we decide to go in a different direction email. But all that means is they actually, hired somebody to the position internally, or because they had a drinking buddy who got laid off and gave them the job even though they didn't even need to apply. You ever see what a grown adult looks like when they're checking their LinkedIn at midnight? It's dark. It's not good. It's like watching a raccoon try to search through a dumpster, just trying to find their self-worth. But we really got to travel in this one because the job market collapse isn't really distributed evenly, and it really does depend on what region you're in. Each region is a little bit different, but there isn't any golden area, right? There's no spot that you can go to unless you have a high-paying remote job and you can move out to the rural bumfuck nowhere. There's really no escape.
I'm going to tell you one thing about those remote jobs. They are next to near impossible to attain. I tried. But anyone that's trying to tell you that just get a remote job, it don't exist anymore, my guy. I'm just going to tell you that all those remote jobs have went down to low-wage workers like Filipinos. If you're trying to get a job as a VA, it ain't happening. It's only for Filipinos because they're going to pay Filipinos $4 an hour. $4 an hour, okay? So if you can't survive on $4 an hour, you're not getting a job. I'm sorry. But here's the thing. So how do you get a job? Well, the only way to get a job these days is knowing someone. How I got into the oil field is because I knew someone. And because I knew someone, I got a job. I used to rodeo, and I met a kid at a rodeo, and we befriended, and then he talked to his boss. And next you know, I met the boss at a bar, had some lunch and beers, and next you know, I had a job. I started the job the next day. Over the years, just knowing people, I was able to move up, and that's what led me to starting my first company, my first business in the oil field. It was from knowing people, not from doing Indeed. Indeed worked for me when I was in college, but when you graduate, it's almost like the Wild West out there when it comes to getting a job. It's crazy.
Some places in this country where it is like a Disneyland, right? And people are so happy. Living is nice. There's no worries. Everyone's smiling. People out jogging at 9 a.m. because they don't have a job to go to because they're probably just a stay-at-home mom. And the only reason those places are like that because those people are generally rich, and rich people all live in the same area. But everywhere else, just kind of a desolate wasteland. Let's talk about the Midwest. You walk through every small town and the buildings look like they haven't been occupied since the Carter administration. And the only functioning businesses there at this point still is just a Dairy Queen and a Dollar General. And even they're struggling to get by because they rely on their customers using food stamps. And who knows if those are going to hold up in the future.
So Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, I used to live in those 3 states consecutively, and there's so many Dollar Generals there. And then the Dollar Generals are barely being held together. There's one town where businesses were just shutting down. There was like no restaurants anymore. There was like gas stations and one Dollar General. That was it. It was so bad. I just had to move, man. I had to move.
Those businesses are kind of clinging to life like 2 survivors off the Titanic found some driftwood. That's pretty much it. The factories are gone. The warehouses are empty. Listen, I've actually ran warehouses in rural America before. And even during the COVID days, they were empty. Nowadays, there's nothing going out because nobody can afford to buy anything. So the warehouses are empty. The only jobs that you can actually get are either low wage or pay in tips and emotional trauma. And you got a 58-year-old man who, spent the past 30 years working in a factory, but now he's delivering groceries out of his pickup trucks because his job got taken by a robot. But the thing is, the robot doesn't even do the job that well. It just works for cheap. Then you got the tech hubs in the big cities, the San Franciscos, the Austins, the New York cities. There, everyone has a job, but their jobs aren't even real. All their job titles sound fake because they are. They're innovation consultants, growth hackers, vision architects. And if you ask the people what the jobs even mean, they can't even tell you. That's because there is no meaning to those jobs. It's because the companies that hire people like that only exist because venture capital has enough money to throw at these places and prop them up so they can inflate the value of the companies and either sell it off or rug pull it for a profit. You got people who are working at startups that aren't profitable yet, but the thing is, the same startup hasn't been profitable for the past 12 years. This is just a common thing. And even if you have a good wage in a place like that, it doesn't even mean anything. Not when a studio apartment in some of these cities is $4,000 a month, and that's just for the living space that is essentially the size of a toddler's coffin. But at least if you live in one of these places, there's a good chance that recreational smoking is allowed. So at least you can numb yourself to the reality that you have a fake job. You're not getting paid enough. You pay too much for your rent and apartment. And tomorrow you can lose your job to an AI bot named Chad, and you're going to be running DoorDash just like the guy out in the Midwest, except you're going to have to trade that $4,000 rent apartment for a $3,500 a month co-op with 8 different people in essentially the same living space because it's not rent controlled. And
Imagine paying $4,000 for a living space. That's basically like slitting your wrists and going for a swim. Slitting both your wrists and then going for a swim. Oh, that's fucking evil as hell.
Lastly, of course, we got to talk about the South, baby. The South ain't got nothing going on. I mean, they got jobs. Yes, they have jobs everywhere. If you like working for Amazon, the kind of dystopian, consumeristic cathedral warehouses that those are. But more than that, they got big jobs, service jobs, compliance work, logistics, distribution. Really, the South has the backbone of jobs when it comes to our country. But the wages are the issue. Paychecks for jobs in the South should come with a sympathy card because you kind of need it. Because each time you get one of those paychecks and actually have a look at it, after all the deductions, all the taxes, local, state, federal, your Social Security, all that shit. After they take all that out of it, you're left with nothing. You can go to the Piggly Wiggly. You can go to Winn-Dixie, maybe get some pulled pork and cry over that while watching NASCAR. That's all you got in the South. Down there, you're still working 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, and you still got to choose between electricity and food because guess what? They just put in a new AI warehouse, and now you have what's essentially an additional $200 monthly fee just so you can have access to AI slop when you're scrolling through TikTok. Lovely. But this is just how civilization collapses. And we can all sense it. We can all feel it. And we're all just kind of like poking and be like, just fall apart already so we can try to build something new. At least so we don't have to pay taxes anymore. Because the problem isn't you, right? The problem is the system. The problem is a system where productivity goes up, but the wages don't. Pay for the CEO goes up, but wages don't. Prices go up, but wages don't.
That's one of the things that people don't pay attention to. They always say you're too lazy and nobody wants to work. The thing is, it is so pointless to work a low pay, low wage job in this current economy when you can barely pay rent and then have money for groceries. The thing is, people think that you should just live below your means. When they mean live below your means, they mean don't do anything. Just work, sleep, eat, and that's it. And then save pennies. How is anyone with a sane mind supposed to be motivated to live another day if that's the only thing they get to do? Like, they don't get to go out, socialize. You know, it costs money to actually live and do stuff. Like, go to the movies, go hang out with friends, eat, drink, like, do social activities. Everything costs money and everything is expensive. But there is no damn way that I am going to sit here and work all these hours and then when I have some off time, just sit in my house and eat my groceries, not spend any money because I'm trying to save, be bored as hell, trying to figure out the most cheapest way to enjoy myself. And of course, I guess you can go hang out with friends and just spend time at the picnic, but there's so many activities that you want to do, that you can do. It costs money. And being bored all the time is expensive. Being bored is expensive.
And all the meanwhile, normal people, regular workers, the working class, the working poor, you're just told that you got to work harder. But you're working harder for what reason? Because if you work overtime, all the money, if you have a job that will give you overtime, pretty much all the extra money that you would have made on that goes away to taxes. So what's the point? But that's what society expects from us, right? You grind. You got to rise and grind. You got to build your personal brand and launch a side hustle, become an entrepreneur. And honestly, that's the best way to get out of this entire situation, because the age of working for somebody else is over. So you have to try the lottery of small business, try the lottery of actually becoming an entrepreneur. But that's what it is at this point. It's a lottery because small business in America is collapsing. I'll make a video on that.
When I was 19, I always wanted to become an entrepreneur. I didn't quite understand exactly what it was, but all I knew at the time was that it mean being able to be your own boss, make as much money as you can, be free from any obligation to go to the workplace, and then not have to worry about every single little financial thing in order to survive. At that time, when I was working my first job, I was getting paid, of course, minimum wage, and I barely had any money left over to do anything because I had to pay insurance for my vehicle. I had a credit card bill because I was trying to build credit. That's it. Food on the weekends because the school doesn't feed you on weekends. But the thing is, it got tiring with not being able to have enough money to have a life outside of going to school and then going to work. Because all my friends and all my classmates were just going out and just doing activities, which also, obviously costs money. It just felt like being a working student while all my other classmates, their parents just give them money to just do whatever. And they don't have to work, but I have to work to survive. Even though all of my school stuff is paid for through scholarships and stuff. I just did not like that kind of living. Just not being able to live and enjoy my youth. Like it almost felt like I was just sacrificing. It almost felt like I was going to get coerced into sacrificing, enjoying being young and doing things and living just for the sake of just making money and receiving a measly old check just to give it away and never be able to use it on myself. Because that money's not going towards me. That money is being paid to insurance. I've never had a wreck in my entire life. Do you know how much insurance I have paid? Oh, doing the math, I want to say 100 grand, but probably over 100 grand. And I have never had a single accident, and I'll never see that money ever.
The thing is, people don't need a side hustle anymore. They just need one decent job. This is what people want. Most people just want one job that they can work, and it's going to pay for the rent. It's going to pay their mortgage. It's going to pay for their food, their utilities, and maybe, once a year they can go to Disney World. That's all people really want. And healthcare. And you're like, well, that shouldn't be much to ask for. And the thing is, you're right. That's not much to ask for. That should be a bare minimum in the greatest country on earth, the wealthiest country to ever exist on this planet, right? That should be an expectation, not something that we need to fight for at this point. But all the workers' rights and regulations, all the benefits that generations of workers in America have fought for since the early 1900s are just being chipped away slowly by technocrats and their lobbyists, just so they can keep AI unregulated so you can lose your jobs. They can continue to consolidate on the assets in America, leaving Americans with nothing to invest in, nothing to hope for, nothing to build on. And let's not even talk about the American dream, because that's dead. That's just a carrot that's held in front of us. And if you still believe in that, you're a moron. The labor market's done and dying at this point. The nation's bleeding jobs. The entire job market's just held together by motivational quotes on LinkedIn. They're posted by a guy who never really had a job in the first place. He just inherited all his wealth from his grandfather, who invented plastic forks. But the truth is, to this entire situation, because that's what we do on this channel. We talk about the truth, right? Unvarnished, unfiltered kind of truth. Although hard to swallow, it is the truth. America doesn't have a worker shortage. It doesn't have a low employment miracle. America has a bad job problem. That's what it has. There's plenty of jobs out there, but no one's going to take them because they don't pay enough to live. So you can say,
For those who keep saying, I know a lot of old timers, Gen X's and baby boomers, they keep saying, go to blue collar work, go to construction. The thing is, imagine all of the white collar jobs get replaced by AI and cheap labor foreigners. Imagine those millions of people flooding into blue collar work. Guess what? Now all the blue collar jobs are oversaturated. Now nobody can get jobs. The problem just grows even worse. Everybody can't be an electrician. Everyone can't be a construction worker. Everyone can't be an oil field worker. Everyone cannot be a equipment operator. Everyone can't do it. And it's the same thing in the Philippines. They're trying to make it like as many Filipinos can have a job. They'll make it to where you gotta have 3 workers to carry a 2x4. And they're already getting paid dirt shit for wages. They're getting paid in coins just to carry a 2x4 with 3 people from here to here. So it's not good for all these white collar jobs to be disappearing and being replaced by AI. It just means it's squeezing everyone to a point where they have to do all this extra side hustle dumb shit just to survive. Like now we have people door dashing, trying to make YouTube videos and survive, trying to make online stores. Everyone's trying to do something everyone's trying to be an entrepreneur because that's the only way to survive at this point for many people. And for a lot of you, you only see things through your lens. You don't see things through millions of people's lives, situations. You only know what you know and what's around you, but you don't know what other people have going on. So you just have to be mindful, open-minded, and just think about it.
Say, well, people just need to get out there. There's plenty of jobs. Yeah, that's easy to say when you own your house free and clear and you're just collecting Social Security while at the same time you're hating on people who collect SNAP benefits and other people who collect Social Security because you're hypocrites. We've replaced stable employment with hustle culture. We've replaced stable employment with good pay, with gig work. We've replaced stable employment with microtask platforms where you get paid 13 cents for reviewing a photo to make sure that it's not pornographic. That's where we're at right now. The stability in this country is gone. And that's all the people want, right? We don't want a segmented job market. We don't want a hellscape dystopian job market where people have to work 4 or 5 jobs just to live. We just want one job. That's how it was a couple decades ago. That's it. Because if this continues at this rate, right, we're not going to be talking about the job market. We're going to be talking about what the nation's going to look like after it's ripped itself apart because people can't afford to live. People in this country are drowning right now. They're drowning politely, right? We're drowning with courtesy because we don't want to bother anybody. But the thing is, we need to bother people. We need to stop suffering in silence. You can complain to me about complaining online, but the thing is, somebody needs to complain about this in a logical way. And I feel like that's what we're doing here, right? We have to bring logic to the situation because the situation that Americans are in, the job market itself is illogical. It doesn't make any sense. And the path that it's going on is leading our country to destruction. So here we are in a country full of hardworking people who want good jobs, but there's no good jobs to be had. Our communities have been absolutely hollowed out by corporations. The next generation has no hope of actually owning a home, and they're walking into the job market after college with $100,000 in student loan debt, walking into a job that's paying $32,000 a year if they can get that. Young people are getting burnt out at 25, and old people are getting abandoned and have to come out of retirement because the value of the dollar has been so watered down and the cost of living has gone up so high that the peace that they've attained after 40, 50 years of work, that guess what? That's just been pulled out from under them. Now they got to go try to get a job at McDonald's where they can leverage their 50 years of work experience and trade that for getting yelled at through the drive-through window at somebody at 3 o'clock in the morning who just drank a bottle of Jose Cuervo. I am sick and tired of hearing how the economy is strong and how we're entering a golden age. The economy is strong for who? It's not strong for me. It's not strong for the working class. It's definitely not strong for the guy with 3 different degrees who are making lattes for tech bros who think that workers' rights should be optional. But I guess maybe everyone's right. Maybe we should just stop complaining and everything's going to be fine in the end, right? Let's be hopeful about it. Let's be positive. I'm positive that one day the society is going to get so bad that we're just going to have a purge, and that's when the fun's actually going to begin in this country, right? That's when America will be exciting again.
You don't want that. Trust me, you don't want that. I'm a very understanding person, and when people vent to me about stuff like this, I don't shut it out because I understand. I'm an understanding person, and I don't just tell people that to just get over it, stop your bitching, and get moving. It's just everyone's got their own level of how they deal with stuff like this. And honestly, it is a very unfortunate situation we got going on. And of course, there's ways to navigate, but a lot of Americans are just opting for moving out of the country because I'll be damned if I'm 80 years old, if I even make it to be old, and then I have to come out of retirement. It just the work I have seen an 80-year-old man come back to the working field because he can't afford it or his retirement ran out or whatever. I don't know what the hell happened, but I've seen so many old people have to go back to bartending, have to go back to all these little jobs. I have been seeing a large increase of just old people working all these jobs. I used to work with an old man and he's suffering. He has grandchildren already. And he is suffering. He's at the age of retirement. He is beyond the age of retirement, but he's doing blue collar work and just hurting. This man got to the point where he just wanted to just give up on life. And I'm like, man, I don't want to say hang in there, Pops, but damn. At least he was positive to me about my future. He was trying to give me advice about, he was actually glad and excited for me when that I was going to leave the country. He said, I'm young, I have my whole life ahead of me, and I need to do it. But that was the only positive old guy that I've ever worked with. But shoot, America's getting worse every day for the average citizen.
Let the proscriptions commence. Take back the wealth. Let's get a little bit of a recapture of American ownership. Those are exciting times. We can all look forward to those. Because the times we're in right now, we're in the suck. In the military, we have a thing called the suck. Americans, congratulations. You're in the suck. Get used to it. But that's all we got for today, ladies and gentlemen. It's Saturday. Enjoy your day off if you have one, or if you're on your way to one of your 4 different side hustles because your utilities went up by $150 a month and you'd like to have food. So it kind of sucks. But if you're still here at this point, like and subscribe. Think about becoming a member. How has the job market been treating you? I've had some people reach out to me, obviously, and it's not been looking good. Some people haven't been able to find a job to replace the one that they've lost in the past couple of years. This isn't something that's new, right? I fucking don't like this administration, but that's not the point. This has been going on for a long time. The degradation and decaying of the American economy and job experiences has been going on for a long time. Americans have been slowly bleeding out, and our country is about to suffer a death of 1,000 cuts. But it's what it is. Still here at this point. Think about becoming a member, right? Give a donation to the channel. It's always appreciated. Dog food's getting.
All right. So first of all, I'm not going to get political. I don't know what everyone's political believes, but I'm not going to get political on my channel ever. But yes, this job market, it was already on its way downhill for years. I sensed it going downhill as soon as the pandemic, as soon as that was over. I already knew it was not gonna get better. When I first became homeless because my field got shut down, there was just nothing we could do, and I was trying to look for a job. I had to fall back on my backup skills, which were being a mechanic. I ended up becoming a diesel mechanic, and that job was hell because I had to work these hours that just would kill an ordinary person. So imagine starting work at 6 in the morning, and then you're supposed to be off at 5 or at 7, but you're off at either midnight, 2 in the morning, or 2 in the morning while you're in another state, and then you have to drive back to be back at the shop at 6 in the morning. Couldn't eat, couldn't shower. I would say there were times I went 3 days, 4 days without a shower, and I had to just try to squeeze in instant noodles to survive at this job. And it was for a Mexican family. I didn't, it was, let's just say, my drinking problem spiked harshly. But anyway, let me know what you think. Tell me about your experiences with the job market. If you're struggling, if you're looking for a job, I can give suggestions, but that doesn't mean that it's going to work because, like I said, remote jobs, any job that you think is simple or easy, it is taken by either AI or by low wage foreigners. Any like solid job that's not easy where you have to have experience, even if you have experience, you're not going to get it. There's so many fake jobs, so many ghost jobs. Honestly, even trying to get into the job market at this point it's a shit show. So the only thing you can do is either try YouTube or try some kind of remote online gig, something, because it's gonna get worse. Tell me what you think. Check out Large Man Abroad too, because he gives out a lot of good content. But once again, I'm not a political person. I don't get political on my page. He does. Check him out, like him, cool. But anyway, I'll see you in the next one.